for your real estate business, you say you build investment opportunities for your clients. How do you do that within real estate now?
Yeah, the main way we do that now is through a hedge fund in self-storage and mobile home parks. So when we were transitioning, we sold all of our apartment complexes, and we're realizing to scale, to help more clients, to be able to bring in more money, we had to be in investments that always flourished. And apartments are a very interesting thing. One, they get saturated really easy, and then the prices go astronomical, which you lose the opportunity to make return. But every 15 years, you have to remodel everything. And so we realized that we did a study, and from 1993 to 2022, in that 19-year period, self-storage and mobile home parks were absolutely the definitive leaders from appreciation and massive growth. I mean, literally like 3 times anything else, from industrial to apartments to hotels to commercial to retail. And so we realized that that's where we wanted to scale. So we built a hedge fund and partnered with the best operators in the United States, and brought them in. So they acquire the properties, and we service the clients to have them in the best proprietary system of.
So what are you property manager? Are you managing the tenants?
It's a hedge fund.
Okay.
And so we service clients to put them into the fund,
Right.
which the fund would have, a 900 unit self-storage in maybe next to Washington, DC, and then a mobile home community in Colorado. And so each fund typically has 10 plus or minus properties. And these are 10 million to say $30 million properties. So they're large properties.
Yeah.
And every investor, when they come in, we do it completely different than everyone else. So most people would sell the property. So it took forever to find it, and you find the diamond, and then 3 to 5 years later, you sell it. So we don't ever sell the properties, but we refinance them, pay all the investors' principal back,
right,
allow them to stay in the deal.
Yeah.
Now they have no principal in it, so there's no risk.
Right.
And then they're able to have a legacy property that pays them every single month.
And how many funds do you have? And how many are within each fund? How many investors within each fund?
Yeah, it's a good question. So our operators have a total of 8 funds. This is our first fund in self-storage mobile home parks. In this fund, we have $80 million in AUM, $80 million in AUM with 3 properties. This is a new fund. It'll have 7 to 8 additional properties. And the beautiful thing is how that's set up is when investors come in, you become a proportional owner of even the properties that are already in the fund.
Right.
Because they're becoming a proportional owner of the future properties. So it's a beautiful, beautiful picture where you become a proportional owner of, let's say 10 different properties.
Yeah.
And these are institutional grade. These are, this is a $300 million fund when it's finished. And it's something that our goal is to bring to the regular Joe who's accredited something that you could only have as an institutional investor.
Yeah.
And so it provides an institutional return to the masses.
And is the number of investors you've got in each fund, is that based on how much per person has put in? Is there, so there's a maximum value of the value of the property that you're investing, the properties that you're investing in. So is the number of investors within each fund dependent on how much they've put in, or is it per a certain number you're looking for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll answer that multiple different ways, but we have a minimum of a $250,000 investment. And on, let's say, a $10 million property, we do a 50-50 loan to value. So 50% is bank money and 50% is investor money. So we would have the ability to raise from enough investors to, create that again, that in that example, that $5 million down payment for the acquisition of that property.
It's really fascinating. I think it's a really interesting business model that you've created there. Something that's very dear to my heart is wholesaling, is property sourcing, what we call it in the UK. So what was your experience of doing that before you got into the fund? How many deals did you do? Who did you service? What sort of clients did you work with?
Yeah, so that was, 06 to 2012. And of that 300 plus, we probably had over 100 of those were wholesales. And in that, it's a beautiful niche. That's what you have to niche down. And it's a beautiful niche, especially if you've got very little funds to work with, because if you're savvy and you actually have these strategies, you can actually create a full-time living, just by doing a deal a month. What we realized was that we wanted to create the asset. We wanted to create the net worth. And, I was clearing six figures, even after the first year, but then you slowly realize that you got to go close another one to bring in that money again. And so that's where we kind of transition and phase into larger cash flowing properties so that we could, one, take the cash flow, and then two, the equity. And then, the picture got even bigger of other individuals saying, hey, can you help me make some cash flow and some equity? And obviously there goes the big picture of the empire to help a lot of people.